Welcome to the Friends of Zayne Adams, aka FOZA podcast, bringing awareness of postpartum depression, suicides, and the children who are left behind. We'll be spotlighting positive outcomes from mothers as well as healthcare experts and counselors. Would you know the signs of PPD? Would you know how to help a loved one? Stay tuned. As a community, we can do more to support maternal mental wellness.
Welcome, FOZA family, friends, and fans. This is Paulette Smith bringing you episode 43 of the Friends of Zayne Adams podcast for the awareness of postpartum depression, suicide prevention, and the education of children who are left behind. Now, in today's podcast, we want to create an engaging and supportive opportunity that provides both practical information and emotional support to mothers navigating these challenging times, especially when faced with certain issues such as insurance uncertainty or job instability, or both, particularly in her postpartum period. Now, it's because there are lots of moms who contribute to the household finances, and some who are the primary source of medical insurance for the entire family. And we know that fathers are facing the same uncertainties, and it's putting entire families in a stressful atmosphere. But it's never too early or too late to plan for less stress. So I'm going to start out by discussing a particular resource that's built on what's known as the 555 guidelines. And this is to help provide actionable items, actionable advice to track postpartum recovery and to better communicate with your care teams and build strong support networks that will last and last, plus a lot more. But before proceeding, I need to say a few words about triggers. This is a safe place. However, we may discuss topics that can be sensitive and may act as a trigger for some of our members, but we only discuss items to serve as education or advocacy. If you're experiencing an emergency, you should call the National Suicide Prevention Lifeline. That's 988. And if you're not experiencing an emergency, but you're seeking consultation, then please check with your doctor or your professional caregivers. If you feel as if your voice is still not being heard, please don't give up seeking help. Visit us online at fozainc.org. and we'll try to assist you in finding resources in your local area. Remember, you are not required to provide us with any private or sensitive information. Again, I want to welcome you to the podcast, and I invite you to subscribe to our YouTube channel. We make it easy for you to share with moms and families the importance of tracking their postpartum recovery and facing some of the challenges that families may be facing, including job uncertainty, insurance concerns, and mental well-being. We want to go over some points. We know that postpartum recovery doesn't end after 5 months. It's our lifelong journey to help you with your lifelong journey. We're here today to talk about how to track your recovery, how to build lasting support groups, and how to find the resources that will help you feel empowered, how to use them, how to move forward into the future. I promised I would talk about the 555 rule because the milestones involved in that are helpful to reaching your goals. Of course, it's worth repeating one more time that there's so much more to postpartum recovery than just doing things right for the first 5 months. We hope that you will do things right. And we want to get you familiar, though, with something that you may not be familiar with, especially if you're in your perinatal period. Let me quickly touch upon what the 555 guidelines are all about. Those who are familiar with them, I ask you to bear with us because I plan to share deeper information after I finish that conversation. It's going to be information that I hope you will use to level the landscape around you and around others as our world is rapidly changing. Exactly what are the 555 guidelines? Well, this is not a medical mandate or medical term. Rather, it's guidelines to help mothers and healthcare providers track your recovery after a wonderful experience of childbirth. And if it wasn't a wonderful experience, to get you back on track, because all the time it's not the same. As a matter of fact, it's different for every mom. And we know that many moms have concerns during the first few months after birth. And it's important for mothers to consult and stay in close communication with their healthcare providers for the personalized advice and care that they need. But these guidelines do represent key milestones in the postpartum recovery process, specifically for the first few months after birth. So let's get to it. Number one, the first 5 is the first 5 days. So the first 5 days after childbirth typically focuses on the immediate physical recovery and care of the mom and baby or babies, because sometimes she may have more than one. And during this time, mothers can experience many physical and emotional adjustments. New mothers are still recovering from the delivery process, and it's important to rest and monitor any immediate health concerns because many things will be very new to her. It's easy to feel both happiness and overwhelmed at the same time. It's common to be over the moon with joy and at the same time experience doubts and fears. And that's why support is so very important. And it's important to have a plan for these times when these up and down sensations are being experienced. 3 actions moms and families can take to make the first 5 days of postpartum as smooth as possible, and especially when facing the added stress of perhaps a job loss or wondering if there has been a job loss, what the insurance situation might be. We're going to go over just 3 things that we want to prioritize. We want to prioritize rest and recovery, no matter what, day by day. Focus on getting enough rest and sleep to help the mother heal physically and emotionally. And family members can support this by taking over household tasks or caring for the baby or other small children that may be in the home while the mother rests. Of course, she's not going to want to always lay there and rest, but she has to get her rest, especially during these first 5 days. It's going to bring her so much more strength. The next is reaching out for support. You want to lean on available community resources, especially if she doesn't have a large family. You want to lean on resources like the local food banks or support groups or health clinics and your church. You want to do that to reduce financial and emotional stress. Don't let pride stand in your way. Family and friends can help by offering emotional support, but they can also help by offering meals or running errands. And so I ask you not to be shy about reaching out. And the next step in the first 5 days is to look for affordable mental health resources. Even if you're not feeling down, just make sure you have those resources available either for yourself or if you're depending on friends and family to do the research for you, have that available, especially if finances are tight. Don't neglect your mental wellness. It's just as important as your physical wellness. You want to look into low-cost therapy and options that are online for support groups for postpartum depression. Like I said, even if you're not feeling down, just be prepared so that you will have all the tools you need at hand if you need them. You want to ensure that your mental health is prioritized in the early recovery days. Now, FOZA has a list of lots of resources on our website. Just go to FOZAinc.org and search on therapy. Also, search on teletherapy because you might not feel like going out of the house. You just had a baby, and there are lots of resources available to us in the virtual world. Okay? Now we're still looking at the 555, so we want to look at the next 5. The first 5 was 5 days. Now we want to look at 5 weeks. By this time, the new mother may and hopefully has begun to experience a more stabilized recovery. She's going to be looking at her nutrition, rest, and healing her body in general. And the emotional highs and lows from the hormonal mental calmness of her life should be starting to settle down. She's beginning to feel more like herself. However, if she's experiencing financial or job challenges, the emotional aspects can be stirred up and they should be taken seriously. This is a very important time for a postpartum mental health check. We don't always know what people are thinking, so we want to get her to talk and we want to get her to communicate. As you may know, FOZA started from the loss of our Christina, and she had shut down in communications, and we took it as a sign that she was being more quiet than usual. But she took her life when her son was only 1 month old. So it's obviously a crucial time for moms, family members, caregivers, and everyone around mom to track without being intrusive, check on her, see how she's acting opposed to how she was before her pregnancy. And you want to make sure that you're checking on her physical health at the same time. Next, the third and final point in the 555 guidelines is to have the best experience you can in the first 5 months. So we looked at 5 days, we looked at 5 weeks. Now we want to see what's happened after 5 months. By the 5-month mark, many mothers' physical recovery is mostly on track. That's what we want. We want everything to be as close to on track as possible. But of course, that depends on how the delivery went. And maybe the outside of the body is still not where she'd like it to be, but the inside should be healing well, depending on the birthing process that she went through. Emotional and mental well-being still needs close attention because whatever is going on the outside, you're not sure about the inside, so you want to keep communications a top priority. Caregiving is still a top priority. So those are the 3 points that we usually talk about that are involved in the 555 guidelines. There's much more to it. Just want to give you a tip of the iceberg if you've never heard of that, so that you can go on and check it out and put it in your arsenal of tools to make sure that you're able to check your recovery, track your recovery, and know that you're on target, that you are feeling good, you are feeling better every day, you're feeling more like yourself every day. And when you do that, you make it easier for family, friends, and caregivers, all the people surrounding you, to help build a support team. They can help you track and monitor your progress. Remember, this episode of FOZA Podcast is dedicated especially to any of you who may know someone or may be experiencing postpartum, or you may be just on a journey in that precious time in your life. At the same time, looking at what's going on around you locally, in your career or in your home, if there's been a job loss or if there are any health insurance uncertainties, we want to get into that. When it comes to measuring how well you're doing, you need to be honest about certain things. You want to be honest with yourself because you come first. You are your own best advocate. So you want to ask yourself certain questions. I have 5 of them here. Are you regaining or starting regular physical activity? Maybe you never had regular physical activity. If you're feeling good, speak with your healthcare providers and they will give you some tips on how to get started, because you're going to want to do that even if you weren't doing it before. Next, are you engaging in social, family, or work-related activities? If you were never social, very rarely social, or you don't have a large family, then that's a good time now, especially since you have a little one and maybe more than one little one, to start building your social network. And we're going to talk about that a little bit later. And I'm not talking about getting a screen and staying on it all day. I'm talking about something real that's going to support you. But we'll talk about that. Are you communicating and talking about your feelings? Maybe you were never that person to talk about your feelings. But if you're having feelings, especially feelings that you never had before that are not positive, that are dark, you want to get those out. If you're feeling down, you want to speak up, and you don't want to be shy about that. Next, are you following all of the instructions given to you by your medical team? When you're a new mom, you get a lot of advice from a lot of people. Some of it is going to be good, some of it is going to be specifically something that you're interested in, but you always put your medical team in that circle because that's their job, for you to speak with them, for them to speak with you, and to evaluate how you're doing so they can keep you on track. And finally, are you finding it challenging to stay on track? Are you finding it challenging to get to sleep, to get the sleep you need? Are you finding it challenging to eat? Or you're just feeling blue? Once again, you are your own best advocate, and honesty is your key to success. If you are struggling in any way, it may be normal. You have support to help you figure out, is this something that you are experiencing that's normal, or is this something that you want to stop and take a look at? There are resources available, and there are organizations ready to support you and your family. No matter what the economic environment is, there are always resources. We just have to find them for you. Next, we're going to talk a little bit about the actual tracking and monitoring your mental and physical well-being during postpartum recovery and why that matters.
Hey there, friends of Zayne Adams. Before continuing with today's conversation, I want to take a moment to thank all of our generous donors and sponsors. Now, here's a quick question. Did you know that FOZA offers marketing packages designed specifically for businesses and organizations? If you're looking for affordable, impactful ways to promote your products and services to a broader audience using video, audio, and imagery, we've got you covered. You can support both your business and maternal mental wellness. That's a win-win. Head over to our sponsorship page at fozainc.org/sponsors for more details. We'll see you there.
Welcome back to the podcast, Tracking Postpartum Recovery. You know, it's critical and it matters a lot. When we say you're in the thick of it, it's easy to forget where you started. Tracking can help you see your progress, which can be empowering, especially during tough days. And you have to identify that. You have to identify the days when you may have had some problems, whether physically or mentally, or you're coming along just fine and every day is rosy. Each individual is just that, an individual. So you can use practical tools like we've spoken about many times and will continue to speak about, journaling. There are also tracking apps. And you can even develop a check-in system with a healthcare provider, a friend, a family member, or your partner. You can also hook up with a support group to monitor your progress. Don't feel as if it's a bother. Don't feel as if you are getting on people's nerves or you're whining or you're complaining. Don't feel like that. You want to get everything that you're feeling out so that you can see what you need to do to get yourself back to being the person that you're growing into. There are a couple of things in this talking point, tracking, that I want to share with you. First, physical tracking. You want to encourage yourself and encourage other mothers to take a physical account of how well you're coming along according to the milestones that your medical team has set for you. Don't overdo it. Follow your caregiver's instructions, and when you're ready to do some physical things other than just writing down what's happening, when you're ready to resume light housework or light exercise, you want to track your progress with that, and you want to be proud of the increased steps that you're taking each day, whether it's taking on a task or whether it is physically walking or whatever it is you're doing, you want to track it. And then there's emotional tracking, because I want to emphasize the importance of emotional changes and mental health changes. I want you to watch out for any symptoms such as anxiety or sadness or feeling isolated. And you can feel some of those, all of those, or none of those. But we want you to track them so that you'll know, is this more in the morning, afternoon, evening, only when you get a trigger, something specific happens? That's good information for you to know and for your caregivers to know. For that, you can, again, use journaling techniques, or you can use an app, just some way for you to go back and know the day, time, and what was really going on. So you can use a simple scale, or you can use whatever method you're comfortable with to track your emotional or mental wellness status. For that, we say, just like physical recovery, emotional recovery doesn't always have a linear timeline. So keeping track can help you notice patterns and help you understand before things get to be too overwhelming what's actually overwhelming you. Next, we want to talk about building a strong support network. Now, the importance of a support network system, all I can say, it is extremely important for you to not only have a strong support network, but for you to know who that is so that you can speak to different parts of your network with different issues that you might be experiencing. A strong support network plays a really important role in reducing feelings of isolation and anxiety. So the same things you're feeling that you don't want to feel, there are ways that you can lessen that. There can be times when you might be feeling ashamed or helpless or overwhelmed and you just don't want to reach out. Those are the times that we ask you to journal, or we ask you to go ahead and reach out anyway. That's the point of having a network, trusted network that you know for a fact is going to be there for you, both online and offline. You're going to want to identify who's in your network. Yes, you can meet new people, build new relationships, and have new friends, but you want to know this is your circle, this is your tribe, this is your network. This will give you confidence. So if you don't have a large family, it's okay. This can happen with military moms or moms living abroad who may be separated from their larger part of their family. But we ask you to please get started building your circle and identifying who's there. You know who they are and they know who they are. Because believe me, they are there. So I want to highlight some of the key people that you may want to identify and know their strengths and know how they will help you if you need it. Of course, we're always going to start with family and friends if they're nearby, because they can offer emotional support, but they can also offer practical support like helping with food, clothing, and babysitting. And if you're in a situation where you have job insecurity, they can help you with babysitting while you find a better position. Next, you want to look for professional support. You want to look for low-cost therapists, doulas, or lactation consultants, anyone that's providing a service for perinatal or postpartum moms at a status, a rate, or a service level that's going to be comfortable for you. Some provide free group sessions because they're nonprofits and they don't charge. Want to seek those out and get those on your list. And if you don't already have that list going, you know we have FOZA Finder, who can help you do that. In that area, you can look for online support groups. You can find trusted virtual communities, and they offer a safe space without judgment or being, overwhelming or asking too many questions or saying anything that's going to make you feel less than. What you also can do is look at your local community resources. Explore community programs. If you don't belong to, if you don't take regular visits to the church, look into the local churches in your area. Unless you're in a very isolated area, there's usually several churches. They're usually always very welcoming. So don't necessarily think religion, or if that is your religion or not your religion, or you're not religious, just think support and community service and people who care for one another. Just think of it that way. Okay? And you can look at how their programs work without making a commitment in any way. If you've been recently unemployed, or you're worried about your insurance capabilities, your insurance status, there are lots of ways that you can look into getting support there. We're going to talk about that a little bit more later on. We want to say the right support network doesn't need to be huge, but it should be strong, compassionate, and reliable. Don't be afraid to ask for help. No one likes to be rejected, but I don't think you'll find a lot of rejection there, because you can do a lot of research without ever even going out of the house. You can find out what other people are saying about organizations. You can look at reviews, and you can save time and stress that way as well. You know that you want a clear vision. And one of the ways of getting that is to know what you need. Again, we want to talk about putting it down on paper, because resources will come to you much straighter, much easier, much better when you know what it is you need. That's where journaling comes in again as a great way to track and monitor your needs. Next, we want to talk about actually navigating job loss and insurance insecurity or insurance uncertainty. Seems like pretty simple, right? Either you have a job or you don't. Either you have insurance or you don't. But if you've been listening to the news, then you know that some people are having a difficult time. It's not working like that for them. They're showing up to work and being told on the day that they show up, they no longer have a job. If that's not stressful, I don't know what is. The financial and emotional stress can hit a mom, especially in postpartum periods, very hard. If they're laid off, particularly, they're really depending on that employment. It can be emotionally draining, and that's to say the least. Finding a balance between work and staying mentally well can be a delicate balance indeed. Remember this, no matter how traumatic it might seem, the loss of a job doesn't define your worth as a mother or a father or a birthing person. Let's just look at some of the ways to manage the stress that could come from getting the bad news, and even if you were expecting it, especially if you weren't. First, we want to talk about if you're still employed. If you're still employed, if you're employed at the time you're listening to this, but you're in fear of losing your job because of the situation that's going on around you, don't let that fear make you freeze. Don't hesitate in learning all you can about your options. And especially if you haven't had your job very long, if you're a new hire. First to come on board, first to be fired or let go, that's not anything new. That is something that has always been in the work world. So you should always be looking for ways to back yourself up or support yourself or have a support group behind you, and put all of your energy in that. Don't let your energy go to fear. You want to learn about job protections if you're still employed. Take the time to learn about what kind of protections do you have, if any, because that's good information for you to have no matter what day, no matter what year, as long as you are in the employment environment. Government jobs sometimes come with protections, such as civil service rules or union support that might not be applicable to you. But you will want to research any protections around your position, and you want to get that information from people who have that expert information, not necessarily a person that's working along beside you at the next desk, or someone who worked in that position at another date and time, because each situation can be unique and specific. And it's also good to review the Family and Medical Leave Act. When you are perinatal or you have a child of a certain age, there are often, depending on what state you're in, rules and regulations that give you more protection than, let's say, a single person with no children. And you want to see if you fall into that protected category. You want to see if you're eligible for taking opportunities or getting opportunities due to a recent childbirth or due to the fact that you are perinatal. You also want to communicate with HR, with the Human Resources Department. That's going to probably be the first thing that comes to your mind, but you're going to want to look at all your options. So if you're concerned about being laid off, it's helpful to communicate openly with Human Resources. And if they will be open with you about your specific job type, that it looks like you're going to be in a certain group of people that might be laid off, I don't know if they would be that honest with you, but if you can get that information, that would be to your advantage so that you'll know how to make a move. But along with that, you'll want to get them to provide you any information they can on the company's unemployment policies, unemployment insurance, severance packages, and any other benefits that are going to affect you if this happens to be your situation where you might be losing your position. And it might not come to that. You might not lose your position, but you want to be prepared. You want to look at budget and financial planning. I know that's not easy for some people who the phrase is living from paycheck to paycheck, but there's always something you can look at to prepare you, if not to do all the things you can while you have that paycheck, to prepare you for what you're going to do if you don't have it. We don't like to think about it, but the future always holds uncertainties. It's just that these times are a little bit more uncertain than others for some people. So while you're currently employed, it's a good time to take a serious look at your financial situation and begin to budget for potential unemployment. Review your savings, look at financial assistance programs, look at any benefits that might be available to you. That includes unemployment insurance or local assistance programs for families in need. You don't want to be, as I said, just caught up in the fear, and you don't want to feel like, well, that can't happen to me. I think we've seen it happen to a lot of people who didn't think it could happen to them. So you want to have a plan in place. Now, if you've suddenly been laid off and you no longer have access to your desk, your paperwork, or anything like that, we say a part of planning would be to get all your documents in order, anything you need to get in order. So if you do show up at your place of employment and you're told that you can't come in, you're not feeling at a loss. You definitely want to check into any changes that are happening with Medicaid. Changes are happening very fast, but that doesn't mean that you can't find out. Take every moment you can to read about or ask questions. If the holding time on the line is very long for a phone call, or you've put in a text message or an email and you haven't heard back, you really want to follow up and find out what's going on with Medicaid as far as the qualifications for perinatal or postpartum. You want to find out what that coverage is like, and especially the mental health services, that part of it. Find out what you qualify for. Try to get that. If you can't get anyone to send you anything in writing, take your own notes. Put that together. Make sure you take a note of what numbers you're calling, what email addresses you're using, even though that might change tomorrow. You are working on day by day, so take the information that you can. You want to look at the Affordable Care Act Marketplace because it provides information on how to use ACA and helps you find affordable health insurance in case you have been able to build a nest egg. You've been able to build a nest egg, but you don't know exactly how long it's going to last you. You definitely want to look at the most affordable way to get your savings to last. We say to this point, losing your job doesn't necessarily mean you're going to be losing your health care coverage. There are lots of options out there, and like I said, make sure you get it from the official organizations, not necessarily people who are experienced. You want to go with people who are experienced in it because they have experience, but you don't want to put all of your knowledge into that direction. You want to find out specifically for your case because lots of things are specifically different. There are options available for you. Even if you're not employed right now, you don't want to panic about your insurance. Next, we want to talk about how to get the help you need without feeling overwhelmed. It's maybe even overwhelming some of the things I'm talking about here. So how do you simplify the process if you think you're going to be unemployed or you think your insurance is not going to cover something? Well, you start by seeking help, getting answers, building yourself an informational portfolio, building your support network, the things we were talking about before. It might feel like a daunting task, especially if you are perinatal or postpartum. That's where your support system comes in. If it starts feeling overwhelming, then the more overwhelming it feels, the more you need to let go of that stress and ask for help. You want to take everything one step at a time. Focus on taking things day by day. Just take copious notes. Start with small, achievable steps. Get the help you need down on paper. If it's something you feel as if you're going to need in the future, make sure you hold on to it. Ask for recommendations. Now, here's where other people's advice can come in handy. Asking for recommendations. Instead of searching endlessly, ask for trusted referrals. And you can ask that information from your doctor, if you have a doula. If you don't have a doula, now is a good time if you're perinatal to build a relationship with one. If you know of doulas but you haven't built a relationship with them, a lot of them have free groups that will give you information about how you can navigate through some difficult challenges. And then, of course, support groups or organizations like Postpartum Support International. That's the first organization, one of the largest organizations, and one of the most prolific organizations that you'll be able to get information from, but you have to stick with it. Don't give up. And that's what organizations like FOZA is for. You contact us, we help you get through some of the larger organizations and get to the yes or no of the request you're asking. If you're asking a request that there's a yes, then you move to the next step. If you're asking a question where it's a no, then you may want to stay there for a moment and find out why. Why is it a no? You'll easily find out because you're already employed, or your income is too high, or you're not living in the city, county, or state that's provided for. All of those have a different avenue you can take. None of those are roadblock. There may be stumbling blocks, but they be steps to the next way that you can go ahead and get your resource list built. And you know that FOZA works by zip code. So we'll look into any zip code that you send us, and we'll go as far as we can to try to find information for you. What we'll ask you to do is prioritize your needs. If you're worried about your employment or your insurance, you might just put everything in a bag and say, my needs are a job and some money. But you have individual needs from the time you wake up in the morning, you and your baby and your family. You have individual needs, and some of those are more important than others. And when you prioritize your needs, people who are trying to help you, support groups, will be able to help you focus on one area at a time. And that doesn't mean that you just focus on one area at a time. That means that you have several groups, maybe several friends and family members who are focusing on different issues on your behalf, but you have to give them the list of priorities so they'll know what direction to go into. You don't want to try to do everything all at once. We want you to consider empowerment through knowledge. Everything that I've spoken about today actually has to do with some knowledge that you do or do not have. You want to get that knowledge. So we encourage you to remember that small actions lead to big results. Sudden financial challenges can seem crushing, but by seeking the right help, the right knowledge, and building the right networks, mothers can feel more empowered and less overwhelmed. Well, that was a lot of information, and you can visit the FOZA website because we're going to place keywords throughout the site with information to make it easier for you to search on topics. And those topics that we talked about today, navigating employment and healthcare insurance uncertainty, the importance of tracking your postpartum recovery, building your support network, understanding that you are not going through this alone, using tools to track your recovery, and most important, your job does not define your worth. It may feel like that, but as you pull through this, and you will pull through, you'll find that your job does not define your worth. Okay? We want you to subscribe if you haven't subscribed to the FOZA podcast, because we're always going to put information in here that we think is going to empower you. If you have a success story, we'd love for you to share it on the FOZA podcast with others. Other people may benefit, and that's what keeps us strong. So go ahead and communicate with us. All you have to do is go to the site, simply tell us what it is that you want or what you need in order to get you through your perinatal or postpartum period in the most successful journey that you can possibly take. We ask those who can donate to the FOZA podcast or become a sponsor for the podcast so that we can continue to bring you maternal mental health initiatives. Well, FOZA family, friends, and fans, that's it for now. This is Paulette Smith. I'm signing off with a reminder of the collective strength of the FOZA community, and in loving memory of Christina LaShawn Thompson Adams. Bye-bye.